Ciao, yesterday I made a cream of eggplant pasta and also I made some bruschetta with it and it was really delicious. Have a look up here if you'd like to see the video. This morning Julie and I were taking a look at that massive basil plant and as I was inspired by yesterday's recipe, I decided to make some pesto alla Genovese. At the moment I'm grating some cheese, some Parmesan cheese. I'm getting all of my ingredients ready. So I'll get myself organized and then I'll tell you what I'm doing, as I'm doing two different versions. A proper traditional version alla Genovese and a modified version which is a little bit more economical and also for anyone who would like to do things faster. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. And here we go again. Let me explain what I'm about to do. So I've got two teams. I've got Team Pestle and Mortar on the left and Team Food Processor on the right. Team Pestle and Mortar will be making a pesto which I will be using to cook my pasta today, and it comprises of pine nuts and Parmesan cheese, garlic, Pestle and Mortar of course, and olive oil, and of course also some salt and pepper. And in Team Food Processor over here I've got very similar ingredients. However, I will be using a food processor to start with rather than a pestle and mortar, but I'm making larger quantities as I will be using this to freeze it. I know, it sounds a little bit odd. I'll explain why in a little while. And instead of using pine nuts, I'm using sunflower seeds. The reason why I'm doing that is because these can be prohibitively expensive and they're okay maybe for a little pasta dish, but I also tend to use this quite a lot and the taste doesn't change a lot. And I've got some beautiful black bread from Sicily. I brought it back from Sicily last time we went, and I slice it and freeze it, and I'll be defrosting this. Well, it's defrosting now, and I will be doing also some bruschetta with it. And here of course is the common denominator, beautiful basil plant, which I will be using. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because this is beginning to fade away, and if I just raise it, there are some leaves which are turning yellow. Actually some are dropping as well, can you see? So I will be actually using them before they go wrong. And basil, I find that is one of those things that don't freeze very well, so that is one of the things I do. So let me go through Team Food Processor first, and then I'll move on to the traditional way of making the pesto alla Genovese. And as this plant is so big, I've asked Julie to come and help me, otherwise it will not fit in the frame. So this is the common denominator, and I'm going to be cutting some of the branches from the bottom like this, and then I will be washing it and I will be drying it. But I'll show you what to do, because actually it is very important to wash it and to dry properly when you're making a pesto alla Genovese. So I'm just giving a good trim really. I need about 100 grams altogether for both recipes. 70 grams for the Team Food Processor and 30 grams for the pasta for tonight. So I think I might have enough here. I'll just get another one and then I'll go and wash it. Thank you, Julie. We're done for now. Julie's doing some ironing, by the way.
Yeah, I'm having a sauna in the lounge.
But she will come and taste both at the end, so she's not going to be part of this video in just at this moment, and see if she can tell the difference. So I'll see you in a little while, Julie.
I look forward to it. I'm hungry already. It
Yeah,
smells wonderful in here.
I'm now removing the leaves from the basil. That's all you need, by the way. You do not need to use the stem. Stems from basil are not very good generally in anything. Basil is different, but when you're cooking with basil, always remove the stems. So all we need is the leaves. Okay, so here is my basil. I've just rinsed in fresh water, and I'm going to be placing it on top of a towel, just like this. This is actually quite a critical phase for this recipe. You do need to wash your basil, even if you have grown it at home. Flies and dust, of course. But also, basil has got this shape, a bit like a spoon, and has got a tendency to hold water. So what I do to ensure that I dry properly, firstly I'm really gentle, and I got this towel underneath, second towel, and I'll place this on top of my basil like this, and very gently I just go back with my hands and I'll dry. This ensures two things, by the way. One, it make sure that when you are processing the basil later, either with the pestle and mortar or through the food processor, you don't end up with this mushy, watery solution, which you don't want. But also, basil reacts to water, and this actually will prevent it from that reaction that could potentially spoil it. So very, very important to do this. Now, some of you might be wondering, what sort of basil should I use to make pesto alla Genovese? Should I import it from Genova? Don't. I don't. I use whatever I've got available. At the end of the day, my view is that basil is basil, and all taste very similar, of course, very similar flavour. And clearly, anyone from Genova will tell you that you need to use Genova POD basil. You need to import it, and the same apply to the olive oil. You need to buy Ligurian olive oil. Sorry, I'm about to roll my eyes. It doesn't really matter, and all taste very similar, and this is home cooking, so use whatever you've got at home. Obviously make sure that it's fresh, and you will end up with a beautiful sauce regardless. So I'm very happy that this is dry enough for my purposes, so I will pinch a little bit, about 30 grams that is, for my pasta later, and I will use this to make the food processor version. In terms of process, I don't think it matters with the food processor version because everything will be whisked together. However, I will be following exactly the same sequence in terms of the ingredients. So I'll start with the garlic, and I'm using 3 cloves. However, one is bigger and 2 are smaller, so should you replicate this version, you will need 2 large cloves of garlic. Now, garlic, let's talk about garlic very quickly. If I split it in half, and you might have seen this with some Italian chefs, and you look on the inside, there is something that in Italian is called anima, which is the soul of the garlic. And if I just go with my knife, it's this little stringy part of the garlic, and some people remove it if they find it difficult to digest. I'm just doing it because I'm showing it to you, and I'm not doing a very good job actually. Maybe my garlic doesn't have much. However, normally it's a little string. I'll try in the others, and I'm keeping everything because I like it. But I think it's because it's a little bit stronger. Some people struggle to digest it. Let's have a look at these ones. So I'll cut it through the middle. I don't think there is much here. My garlic hasn't got soul. Anyway, you get the point. If you get some garlic which has got a little string in the middle, and you prefer it to be slightly milder, just remove it. And that's the garlic done. In the very traditional pesto alla Genovese recipe, you use pine nuts, but I mentioned that I'm going to be using sunflower seeds, and these are 30 grams in the go. Cheese next, and this is Parmigiano Reggiano. However, you can use a combination of Parmigiano and Pecorino, or you can use just Pecorino. The difference being that if you just use Parmigiano, it's going to be quite milder in taste and also a little bit sweeter. Whereas if you want something a little bit more aggressive, you can use Pecorino. Pecorino is a little bit salty, of course. And I'll put in the basil next, and you might be asking to yourself, oh, you should have used a larger food processor. Maybe I could have done with a larger one, but my next size is quite big, and I want everything to mix well, so I prefer to use this little one, and it will give me a proper mix at the end than actually having to put a lot of oil in the larger one, and this will give me a much smoother finish. Next ingredient is going to be some salt, and I'm using some rock salt. Again, I'm not using a lot. If you look, it's about 1/4 teaspoon, and also some pepper. Now I'm going to be using the scales for the olive oil so that I ensure that I add exactly the right amount, and I'll turn this on. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but actually oil is measured in grams, not in milliliters. So I'm going to be adding about 70 grams for this mixture. And this is, by the way, extra virgin olive oil. I would recommend that you do use extra virgin for this recipe. There, 75, never mind, not bad at all. So I'll put the lid on, and I'll get the base, and we will put it through. And here we go. So here's my base, and I'll place this in, and I'll whisk away. Now you might find that as there is quite a lot here, you might have to open it and then just give it a little push with a spoon or a fork, whatever you might have available, and then start again. let's have a look. Yeah, not bad at all actually, but I like mine is slightly more liquidy, so I'm going to add just a tad more olive oil, not a lot, just to make it a little bit more liquidy and smoother, and I'll give it one more go. And that is absolutely perfect. Let's take a look, and I'll just do a little taste. Oh, it's absolutely delicious. So let me show you what I do next. So first of all, I'm going to be reserving a little for one of the toasts so that we can do a comparison. So that is just one level the spoon, and I'll put it on one side for later. And using a teaspoon, I'll just go along and I'll start filling them up. In case you're wondering if it is okay to freeze pesto, absolutely no problem at all. This will take about 3 to 4 hours to solidify, and then what I tend to do, I tend to defrost it. For example, I want some thing on toast and I will take 1 or 2 cubes out, and I will defrost it naturally, and then I'll toast my bread, and I'll put it on top of it, and some cheese, or maybe some tomatoes, and away you go. Absolutely delicious. Ironically, the way I found out was by accident. I made some pesto pasta one day, and I made too much, and I didn't want to throw it away, and we were going away on holiday the day after, and I didn't want to leave it in the fridge, so I decided to freeze it, and thought, well, I'll try, why not? And a few days later, well, no, a few weeks later, when we came back from holiday, I wanted to have something on toast, but I didn't have any greens, and then I remembered this, and I defrosted it, and it was absolutely delicious, and I've been making it ever since, actually. Of course, this is too good to waste, so using a spatula, I'm now going at the bottom of my food processor and scraping all of the remaining pesto. And this is nearly ready, and if you use your spatula across the top, you make sure that they are all the same size, just like this. And this is ready for the freezer, but before I put it in, I'll just place some cling film on top, and that will prevent obviously getting too smelly in the freezer, but also avoids any discoloration. So I'll put it in. It will be about 3 to 4 hours before it's ready, and I will show you either later today or tomorrow morning when it's done, and I'll see you in a minute to make the traditional Genovese pesto next. Of course, if you like experimenting in the kitchen and you like different sort of textures, nothing stops you from using other ingredients. For example, in the pasta I've added like a half bell pepper, red, green, whatever. Red actually is quite nice because it provides you some different color. Also, I've used capers in the past, or olives, or a combination of things. Depends on what you like, really. They all blend in very, very nicely. But of course, you can no longer call it pesto alla Genovese. Mind you, this one that I've just made is not pesto alla Genovese because, of course, I used the sunflower seeds, but you know what I mean. Anyone from Genoa watching this video might be very, very annoyed at me. Hopefully not, they get the spirit, I'm sure. So I'm making now the traditional one, and actually here I am following to the letter quantities and process to make the proper pesto alla Genovese. So I'll start with the garlic, but I'm keeping the anima, the soul inside, so in it goes. And every time I add something, I'll go in and give it an initial mash, and I'll go up and down, by the way, initially, like this. So now that all of the garlic has pretty much been mashed, I'm going to add the pine nuts next. So in they go, and I'll do the same, up and down. Now the way they make it in Genoa is that they go up and down first, and then as you get this very mushy and smooth consistency, you start going round so that the effectively pine nuts and the garlic blend together. And my basil comes next. So here it is, what I reserved earlier, and I can add it in. And before I continue though, now that I've added the basil, I'm going to add a little salt. This is, as I mentioned before, rock salt, and it's very coarse, and it helps when you're grinding the basil together. So again, I'll go up and down to start with, and then as the basil begins to effectively get mushed, I will go around again. And can you hear this noise? this actually is quite remarkable because it brings back memories of when I was a child. On a Sunday morning, sometimes I used to be woken up by something like this, and that was my mum making a pesto. And it's funny that noises actually can bring you back to the past, as some smells and flavors do. This is quite interesting. Anyway, so you can see that I've been going up and down, and I'm now still going around again. And believe it or not, actually, if you're using a pestle and mortar, this is one of the most critical phases to get a proper traditional pesto. So just carry on, be patient until you get a nice, fine and smooth finish. Now let me give you a little tip, and not many people actually realize this. Use a little teaspoon and go at the bottom and scrape it, because the pine nuts will have this tendency of getting attached to the bottom, so you are dislodging them and then you start again. But you can see that I'm nearly there actually, and that is really good. That is as far as I can go for the time being. And if I show you, can you see that still you got the texture of some of the basil, but generally it's all creamy. So time to add the cheese next. So Parmesan goes in. These are 30 grams, by the way. I'll mix it using my teaspoon first, just to give me a head start. But very quickly I'll go back to the traditional way, and off I go again. And as my cheese is already grated, this doesn't take very long, maybe a minute or so. So I can now add my olive oil. But if you were to use Parmesan cheese, which is in chunks, obviously you'll need to mash it until it's all gone. So olive oil, I've got my scales over here, and I'll do exactly the same as to what I did with the other pesto. So I'll place them in on top, and I'll turn them on, and I'll be looking for 30 grams altogether. So in we go. This is obviously to make the pasta. Yeah, got it right this time. And nearly there, so I'll remove the scales, and I'll do one last round with my pestle and mortar. Obviously don't start bashing it once again, otherwise it will go everywhere now that there is oil. Just mix it gently like this, and that will be fine. Enough for the oil to be absorbed. And this is also done. I'll just do my usual. Oh, lovely. Different to the other one, but they're both very nice. But maybe this is slightly better. But I'm not going to tell Julie, because she needs to be the judge later. So I'm going to now clean my equipment, and I am actually a little bit early for dinner. So what I'll do, which is actually good practice anyway, I'll move all of my pesto in a glass bowl over here. But like the other pesto, I think it's a little bit dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil, and I'll stop there, and I'll give it a gentle mix. And now I'm going to find a little cover. Here it is, and this will go in the fridge until I'm ready to cook the pasta, and it will continue marinating, and it will be lovely. So I'll see you in a couple of hours time, once time to cook the pasta and also do the bruschetta. See you then. Bye. Bruschetta time next. Let me show you what I do very briefly. So here is my Sicilian bread. So I'm gonna be slicing it in about 1 centimeter, and I'll do a couple of slices. By the way, this bread, as I mentioned before, comes from Sicily, and it's called Pane Nero di Castelvetrano. And when I was in Sicily, I went to see my friend who makes this bread, and he gave me some flour to then be able to make here in the UK. We'll be putting a little video together, and as and when it's out, be up here if you're interested. And this is very simple, by the way. I just sprinkle a little olive oil on both sides of the bread, but before I turn it around, I'll just spread it with a brush like this. So turn it around, and I'll do the same on this side. Then I'll go along, and I will add a little oregano, only on one side. Just that's enough. That would be the side where the pesto will go. And I'll use my brush once again to ensure that the oregano is totally absorbed. And I'll put it under the grill. I'll start with the way where the oregano is on the top first, and then I'll turn it the other way around, and I'll get it out when it's lovely and golden. Great, this is quite exciting actually. So FP means Teams Food Processor. So I'll do that one first, and I'll show you this one, next one another. I removed a little earlier so that I could do this, of course. This is a little bit paler, and that will tell you the difference. I'm whispering because Julie's next door and I don't want her to hear. But I'll spread some of the food processor on here, on the right hand side, and perfect. I'll just give the knife a quick clean with my finger, and I'll do the same with this one. You can see that this one actually, the one with the pestle and mortar, the consistency of the basil is a little bit chunkier, which is obvious because of the fact that this has been whizzed. And I'll cut them in half so that we can both have some and some. And I'll call Julie. Julie?
Does this mean food's available?
She comes running. Okay, so to recap, Julie has got no idea what is what. So you have a bite of one of those and then and tell me what you think first. Is it good?
That's really creamy because it's
Okay, go for this one. So
That was lovely, yeah.
you carry on. You need to tell me at the end which one you think is nicer, and also which one you think is done with pine nuts in the pestle and mortar, and which one is done in the food processor with the seeds.
Had you done it a blind taste, I would have said pestle and mortar and machine.
Okay.
Because I can see. So had you gone a blind taste, I don't
Okay,
know
yeah,
I don't know that I would have known.
Okay, you need to have a second bite to decide. I'm not surprised.
Sorry, it's technical, everyone. Sorry.
So you're not telling me which one is nicer. You guessed correctly. This one is pestle and mortar.
Actually, the taste is the same. The taste is the same.
It's the same, is it? Okay.
It is the same.
Okay.
But delicious.
I'll try some.
I'll just take them away with me. Thank you, everyone.
No, you need to finish the film with me. We're going to do the pasta next, okay? And pasta time it is. So water is boiling. Half a teaspoon of salt goes in. And today I'm using, by the way, something called trecce. I'm trying to be as close as possible to the tradition of Genoa with pasta. If you look here, it's, where is it? Trecce, yeah, trecce. And the reason why it's called trecce is trecce is a word for plat in Italian. But as I often say, you can use any pasta you like, even spaghetti or linguine. It doesn't really matter. But as I've got it from Sicily, I'm using it. So this will take about 8 minutes to cook. So I'll assume about 8 minutes. By the way, once we turn the camera off, you know what Julie said to me? She said, "Oh, maybe we should just have bread and pesto." It's so lovely. Can you do more? I said, "What do you mean? I've been doing a video with the intention of making pasta, and now you want me to make just a bruschetta." She's terrible.
It was lovely.
It was lovely. Yes. Anyway, so I'll see you in about 7 to 8 minutes. And my trecce pasta is ready and drained, and I've also kept, by the way, a little cooking water as I might need it when I add my pesto. So here is my pesto, and using a spatula, ideal for this job. I'll just pour it in and I'll mix it all together so that the pesto mixes with the pasta. And you see, look, it's a little bit dry, so just judge it. So I will add a little water at a time and see how it goes. Not a lot. I don't want to end up with a wash of water, just enough to make it a little bit smoother. Just a little bit more and we are ready. And that is absolutely perfect, and the smell coming out, believe me, is amazing. And of course, by the way, those ones I put in the freezer, you can make pasta also with those. You might need maybe 2 or 3 per person because they're only small, but it's ideal. That's why we do it. And I'll put some in my plate. And here is also Julie's plate. This pasta, by the way, is quite dense, so although it doesn't look like there is a lot, in terms of weight, it's a couple of 100 grams, so you will find that it will definitely fill you up. And before I finish, just a little bit more Parmesan cheese on top, just to flavorize a little bit more. Very, very optional, but if you come from Sicily, it's compulsory. Just a little bit more olive oil. And if you've watched any of my videos, you will know what is coming. I've already put this together. A little tomato with a basil leaf on top. And I haven't had my bruschetta because I kept mine so that I can make a photo of the plate. If I rely on Julie,
I thought there was one each now.
maybe. And there it is, it's ready. And I will taste it from Julie's because she's got more than I have. And then I will use this to take a photo. So off we go with the cheese. I'll be kind to her. She's helping me. So there you go, Julie.
Thank you.
Not
what
as
about
elegant.
The olive oil? Don't I get the olive oil?
Of course you do, of course you do. God, she wants all the time.
Absolutely.
There you go. And I'll just test
We've got a
some.
fly trying to join in.
No, we don't want flies. And it is absolutely delicious. Really genuine, and I'm so glad I made it. And if you try, you will love it too. Also because the pesto is raw and you get the full flavor from the garlic and the full flavor from the basil. Delicious. Try and let me know how you get on. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and if you have ever made it, let me know in the comments, or if you try, let me know in the comments. Thank you, ciao ciao, and buon appetito. I was a little bit quick off the line last night with my arrivedercis and ciao ciao. It's not until later in the evening when I was editing the video and doing the first cut that I realized that I'd forgotten to show you what the ice cube pesto looked like. And I'm keen to show you that because some of you might be wondering how olive oil and pesto performs in the freezer. I could have done it last night, but by the time I was editing my video, I was in my pajamas, and personally I was in bedtime mode. So I'm doing it now before I start my next recipe. So here they are. I've just removed the cling film, and the first thing I always do is to just give them a little shake like this to ensure that they break up. I find that just placing the knife inside like this, and make sure that you go a strong knife and applying a little pressure, and they just pop out. Not necessarily as simple and easy as an ice cube, but you can see undoing them and they just come out very easily. They are a little bit softer because they are made with olive oil and basil, and there is hardly any water content, of course, so you can see they are coming out beautifully. And here is my last one, and I'll give you two tips what to do and what not to do. Firstly, I'll just place them inside a freezer bag like this, and as they are already frozen, I find that as you put them in the freezer, they will not stick to one another, and then you can just take out as many as you like. What not to do. When you're defrosting them, do not place them in the microwave or on the hob, because the beauty of these, of course, is that you eat it raw. Even if you put them in the microwave, you will be partly cooking it. So my suggestion is not to do that. However, what to do is to plan ahead. So if you like, you can place them in the fridge the night before, and depending on what you're doing the day after, of course, and then they will defrost naturally, and that is the best way. However, if you fancy a quick snack at, say, lunchtime, you want to have them with some bread, just an hour before you eat, just take out 1, 2, 3, whatever you need, and put them on your worktop on a plate and leave them to defrost on room temperature normally, and they will defrost very quickly. They're very small, and we found ourselves last night actually using some of the Sicilian bread, the non-toasted bread, and mopping up the pan. Was delicious. So you do not necessarily have to use it on toast. So that's the lot. Very simple. Hopefully you make them, and if you do, let me know. And this time is arrivederci and ciao ciao for real. Thank you. Bye.